Hello everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the altcoin market here in general. Just trying to put things into a little bit of context here. I still think that market symmetry is king. And basically, since the cycle bottom over here for Bitcoin, I've had this Gann chart here. It's been forming higher highs and higher lows. It's been challenging these arcs over here and break one arc here at a time. And we backtest these arcs and usually go to the next arc, backtest it. Looks like we want to gravitate up here to the arc up here, but we're a little bit stalled over here so far on the weekly chart because we do have a horizontal Gann level over here that is trying to get over, and so far it's been serving as a little bit of a magnet here. It looks like this week we would be able to close above it. I don't want to jinx it because it's still early. It's Tuesday. We could have gravitating over here sideways. You can even break down underneath this line over here and test the angle. That's entirely possible. But whichever path it decides to take, because it broke away from the arc and backtest the arc, if we're able to convincingly break above this horizontal zone over here, then I do think that ultimately it's going to go up here to the next arc, whenever that would be, which is going to be, wherever it ends up hitting, maybe around 150,000, 160,000, somewhere around there, depending on where it hits on the arc. But that's basically what the market symmetry is telling me here. Now, are there any other supportive evidence to suggest that Bitcoin's going to keep going higher? I do think so. I would say if we look at it, instead of looking at it weekly, look at the monthly here, just look at some of the other indicators I'm looking at. Bitcoin has just been pushing above the monthly Tenkan here. Now, whenever price bounce out of Tenkan and go higher with higher highs and higher lows, this is not generally how the bull market ends. Bull market ends whenever you end up having a breakdown of the Tenkan and Kijun. And currently, mostly Tenkan here on the blue line. Currently, we were not really showing any signs over here. A lot of people are saying how it was very similar here to 2021. We're not really seeing it here. In May and in May and June, we end up breaking down underneath the blue line over here for a period of time. There was really no sign that it's doing that so far, this bull market. We've had that crazy parabolic move over here. So far, we really haven't had that crazy parabolic move. It's just been stepwise approach, one step at a time here. And here, we just went way too far, way too fast. We ended up having to correct, and when we did, we ended up cooling down, ended up breaking down underneath the Tenkan over here. And eventually, we have a little bit of a false breakout here, but that was it for that market, right? We're not really seeing that here. So far, if you look at the 2015, 2017 market, it's been riding the Tenkan and the blue line all the way up here until you actually broke down underneath the Tenkan. That was the sign, that was the signal that the bull market is over. We're not really seeing that over here at all. The other thing I also was not really seeing here was, remember how I was talking about how the weekly chart could potentially allow price for Bitcoin to go up to the 150Ks or so. If you're looking at the prior cycle to this cycle here, I do see a Bollinger Band fractal here because price just kind of going up and sideways over here for a while. It's been going up and sideways here for a while. You actually end up having a little bit of a Bollinger Band contraction over here, and you have a Bollinger Band contraction over here. Interesting thing is, during this Bollinger Band contraction, the upper Bollinger Band is actually pointing up, like we did over here, whereas the lower Bollinger Band is actually contracting over here. Now, the thing is, if we end up getting a candle like we did back in October 2020, in August of 2025, and there's no guarantee because a lot of people worry about seasonality, and seasonality is generally weak for August, sure. But if we end up getting, theoretically, a little bit of a breakout candle like we did here in October 2020, where Bitcoin goes up to 130, 140, 150Ks, anywhere around August or September, that could reverse this low Bollinger Band contraction that can actually cause an expansion of the Bollinger Band. Now, if you end up having a Bollinger Band expansion here on the monthly, and I already see a little bit of morphology change here, right? You can see the lower Bollinger Band is becoming more decelerated. It's becoming less and less contracting, kind of like over here. It's becoming less and less contracting over here. It looks like we might be getting ready for impulse for Bitcoin to go higher over here. And if we end up getting an impulse, then Bollinger Band is probably end up going to have the initial Bollinger Band expansion here. And that could lead to, really the true parabolic move for Bitcoin here, which is all just theory. The reason why I even speculate that to be the case is because over the last couple of cycles, you don't really have the cycle being ended until you have the full parabolic bull trend with full monthly bullish band expansion. That has happened pretty much, a couple of cycles before. Granted, it's the sample size is not great. Maybe the cycle is different. Maybe this is the bullish band expansion. Maybe it doesn't go all the way down to the negatives. But so far, it seems to be different compared to the previous cycle. So I would speculate, because Bitcoin is making higher highs and higher lows, because Bitcoin's upper Bollinger Band is still being expanded, because there's a deceleration or contraction of the lower Bollinger Band, that something like this could potentially work out if we end up getting a God candle somewhere around August or September to push price all the way up to maybe the 150Ks, somewhere up there. All speculation. I do not know whether or not that's going to be happening or not. I don't want people over leverage to based on some stupid idea that some cat is trying to talk about on X on YouTube. But that's just my speculation in terms of what could happen. And to me, I think based on what I'm seeing, I think it's more likely to happen than not. So it's all probability, right? It's not anything absolute here that I'm talking here at all. One supporting theory here is that Bitcoin dominance is still near its cycle high. We've hit Bitcoin dominance up to around 66%, and that was the cycle higher. We're not that far off from it. Usually you don't have to cycle over until you have a huge drop of Bitcoin dominance like you did over here, really from 2017 March all the way to January 2018. And you also have here in December 2020 dropping all the way down to really January 2022. This drop over here usually takes about 8 to 12 months or so. And if this is the initial drop here, then I think that it would probably be more than just a few months, which means that we may get a lengthened cycle, which means that I'm basically talking nonsense here, because Bitcoin has to go through four-year cycles, right? So what are you talking about here? I don't know exactly. All I'm saying is I'm just showing you what I'm seeing here. Now, the other thing that makes me think that the crypto cycle would keep going here at least for the next few months is Ethereum. Before I even talk about Ethereum, I want to just also point out Bitcoin. If we end up closing Bitcoin the way it is this month, it would be closing at an all-time high candle. If we end up closing Ethereum where it is right now, and the months still have a couple of days to go, so there's no guarantee, but we have closing month it is right now, that would be the highest close ever since really November 2021, right? It would close above all these different candles over here, so that would actually be quite bullish. If it ends up doing that, it would be a breakout. And there's a good chance for Ethereum to do that. Now, I don't think Ethereum is going to be able to break above the 0.86 this month. I think that if we end up reaching $4,000, it's probably going to get rejected here over the next couple of days. What happened after is going to be August or September to break out. I don't know, but all I know is that so far Ethereum is not looking bad here at all. If you also look at the 2-week chart here that I've been showing here for a very long time with these angry phases, basically you have 3 different cycles here that's being illustrated. Each cycle seemed to be longer than the other. This cycle over here had a breakdown underneath this trend line and grabbed liquidity. People got angry, and next thing you know, it just shot up to the moon. Here, you broke the trend line here in COVID with a couple of wicks here. People got angry and extremely bitter. Next thing you shot up to the moon. Here we have the trend line here has been building up for more than 2 years. We broke down underneath of that recently, had a bearish back test, but was able to break out above this cup and handle formation. We could back test it, that's possible, but we don't have to because we didn't back test over here, we didn't back test over here. We had a clear breakout over here. So if we're able to break above this horizontal zone over here around $4,000, then Ethereum can go up a lot higher. How much higher can it get? Well, we'll see how impulsive and how much liquidity that we get. I'm not even gonna speculate because I'm just gonna get called crazy here. But I think Ethereum's getting ready to break out. If that's the case, I think Bitcoin, even though it may not be as powerful as Ethereum, if Bitcoin dominance continues to drop, I do think that Ethereum is going to do pretty decent here moving forward. Now, looking at the weekly here, there's something called Ethereum dominance. It's something that I've been spotting here. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud over here, the first thing is look at a weekly Ichimoku cloud for Ethereum dominance. So far, Ethereum dominance basically means that it's like at the 12% of the entire cryptocurrency market cap, right? It went down to 7% back in April and went all the way up to 12. Big giant move, very impulsive, had a bullish technical kitchen cross here. of the weekly Ichimoku cloud. Now you're challenging the cloud over here. We are entering the cloud so far. It might end up consolidating over here for quite some time. Bitcoin and Ethereum they would just go up together and just go sideways over here for a while. I do not know the answer to that, but it looks like Ethereum dominance is actually doing something pretty bullish here if we're able to really truly enter the Ichimoku cloud here and stay in the Ichimoku cloud and flip that resistance into support. It might get rejected here, and we might have to use more energy to push through. But so far, it looks like we're entering. So we'll see what happens. The week is still early. It might end up getting rejected there, but that's something that I'm starting to kind of notice here. The last thing I want to talk about is this. This is total 3. This is the entire cryptocurrency market cap here without counting Ethereum and without counting Bitcoin. So what are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about pretty much all the other altcoins excluding the top 2. And it has hit over $1 trillion market cap, which is a little bit of a psychological barrier. As you can see, it kind of got rejected over here for a while. We also got rejected here from the previous all-time high over here. But guess what? We are breaking back above the 0.886. You remember how I was talking about if you break above the 0.886 log fib, sometimes things can get parabolic. Here we had a little bit of false breakout and ended up come back down, back test the 0.618, 0.707, and broke through 0.786. Guess where we're going? We're going past the 0.86 right now. If the month closed above the 0.86, I think we have a good chance to make an all-time highs. And for total 3 to hit some of these fib extension levels up above, which would be very, very bullish for cryptocurrency market overall. If you're also looking at the Ichimoku cloud over here, you can see how initially it was a little bit too far away from the Tenkan and Kijun, right? The Tenkan was down here, prices up here, ended up having to correct back to the mean and huck the Tenkan here for a while. Now we had a clear breakout, and this candle over here is touching the Tenkan. Right now, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the next candle. We would not, on the next candle, the tank and the blue line over here is going to end up shooting up because we're not counting the low over here anymore. So that's going to allow total 3 to really shoot up here next month. I think that we're getting close to a breakout. I'm not sure. There's no guarantee of any of this. But you can also see that total 3 is also basically showing very, very similar morphology as what Bitcoin is showing. You have an upper Bollinger Band expansion here, low Bollinger Band contraction is getting a little bit more decelerated, right? So what are we talking about here? Low Bollinger Band contraction getting a little bit decelerated, upper Bollinger Band expansion, very similar morphology over here and over here. So these usually precede a pretty impulsive move to the upside. Again, I cannot guarantee you that these are going to work out because these are just fractals. Fractals can be wrong. And, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Sometimes you have to risk, not financial advisors, sometimes you have to risk money into a decent setup here to see where it takes you. I don't over leverage. I don't use margin. I don't do any kind of call or contracts or anything like that. I just hold spot. And if I see something wrong, I'm just going to get out of this spot. These are very, very volatile assets. And if you use leverage or if you do leverage play on a leverage play, that's generally, if you're able to tolerate the risk tolerance, good for you. But I would generally, stay away from that on my own thoughts. With that said, I still think that the whole cryptocurrency market, including the market cap, including Bitcoin, including Ethereum, are looking pretty decent. I just wanted to share my thoughts. If August turns out to be how everybody says it's going to be, where seasonality is weak and we are dumping a lot from there, then, I'll be very sad about it. I'll lose a lot of money from it. I don't, and I'm a fool for talking about all these bullish things that I'm seeing. But if seasonality ends up not being a concern because we already had a huge drop here from February to April, and we already had that workout in terms of the liquidity grab, in terms of the seasonality weakness and things like that, then August and September could turn out to be actually a lot of very surprisingly bullish. So we will see what happens with that, guys. Take care. Bye.